Come riscar para vocês.
It's all covered in today's China Truths.
Welcome back to China Truths. Today, we bring you the latest unfolding events from Africa. Stories that reveal how the continent is changing and what it means for China's global ambitions. Across Africa, a storm of unrest is sweeping through the continent. Factories tied to China's investments are burning, construction sites are in ruins, and Beijing is rushing to evacuate its citizens. From Angola to Tanzania, Kenya, and South Africa, a wave of fury has erupted against Chinese influence. It all began with a single spark, a viral video from Angola showing a Chinese manager striking a local worker. Within hours, outrage turned into chaos. Angry crowds flooded the streets, flames engulfed factories, and dark smoke painted the sky. What started as one labor dispute quickly grew into a continent-wide reckoning. In Tanzania, demonstrators clashed with police. In Kenya, Chinese company offices were reduced to ashes. In South Africa, massive rallies filled the streets as unions called for an end to modern slavery. What was once called the Belt and Road Dream has become a nightmare for Beijing. For 2 decades, China poured vast sums of money into Africa, building highways, ports, and power plants in exchange for access to oil, minerals, and strategic land. Angola stood as a shining example of this partnership, where Chinese firms dominated construction and mining, while thousands of Chinese workers arrived to take the best-paying positions. Locals were promised an opportunity, but what they received was exploitation. Long hours, low pay, and unsafe conditions. The anger that had been building for years finally exploded. "We are not slaves," protesters shouted as they stormed Chinese-owned factories. Walls were covered in graffiti demanding, "Return Africa to Africans," and "China, go home." By nightfall, Luanda looked like a battlefield. Buildings reduced to ashes and streets filled with debris. The chaos spread like wildfire. Ports were blockaded in Tanzania, freight trains stopped moving, and in Kenya, flames consumed Chinese corporate offices. In Johannesburg, tens of thousands took to the streets, demanding fair treatment and equality. The unrest sent shockwaves through Beijing's Belt and Road ambitions. In panic, the Chinese government issued emergency evacuation orders. Charter planes rushed to pull out stranded workers, and naval ships were dispatched to nearby coasts. State media portrayed Chinese citizens as victims, carefully avoiding the deeper truth of why Africa was burning. For many Africans, the truth is painfully clear. Decades of debt and exploitation have left nations trapped. They built roads and railways with Chinese loans they could never repay. When the debts piled up, ports and natural resources were handed over to Beijing. What was once called aid had turned into control. Now people are rising to take back what's theirs. "This is not a riot, it's liberation," shouted protesters as videos of burning factories flooded social media under hashtags like #Africa for Africans and #Take Back Africa. Millions have joined the movement online, calling this moment Burning Africa, a symbol of resistance and rebirth. Villages drowned by dam projects, forests destroyed for mining, fishing towns turned into shipping ports, all in the name of development. Governments stayed silent because they owed too much to Beijing, unable to break free from the financial chains that bound them. But the people have spoken, and their voices are louder than ever. In Nairobi, young activists tore down Chinese company signs. In South Africa, labor unions declared this as the end of a new colonial era. And while Beijing dismisses the uprisings as isolated acts of violence, the world sees something much bigger, a turning point. The international community is watching closely. Washington and Brussels call it proof of China's fading grip. Moscow calls it a second wave of African independence, not won through war, but through economic liberation. Africa is burning, but from those flames something new may be rising. The fight to reclaim dignity, land, and freedom. As global powers quietly maneuver in the background, unease is spreading through Beijing. Within the halls of the Chinese Communist Party, debates have begun over whether its grand vision for Africa has collapsed under its own weight. What troubles the leadership most is not the humanitarian cost, but the immense financial losses that now threaten to unravel years of overseas investment. A former diplomat, speaking anonymously, admitted that the unrest across Africa represents the breaking point of China's economic model, an approach built on dominance disguised as development. The flames consuming cities and factories have not only destroyed physical structures, but also the fragile trust once used to justify China's presence on the continent. Even ordinary Chinese workers, who came to Africa seeking opportunity, are now caught in the crossfire of anger and resentment. Inside China, silence has replaced transparency. Online searches related to Africa's turmoil are swiftly removed, while state television continues to broadcast cheerful stories about global cooperation, carefully avoiding the images of burning warehouses and frightened families that circulate worldwide. The question now echoing across continents is whether China truly helped Africa rise, or merely built another form of dependency. Africa, once a vital export hub for Chinese goods, has seen trade nearly frozen. In Kenya's ports, containers remain idle, while exporters in Shanghai and Guangzhou report waves of cancellations. What was once hailed as the shining success of the Belt and Road Initiative has become a growing liability for China's economy. Public frustration inside China is also rising. Citizens question why the government continues to pour billions into foreign projects while the domestic economy struggles. The yuan is weakening, and online criticism is spreading despite censorship. Meanwhile, in Africa, a new slogan has emerged: aid is not freedom. The younger generation, once drawn to promises of prosperity, now demands genuine independence. Across social media, their voices grow louder, calling to protect their land, reclaim their ports, and secure a future of their own. What began as isolated protests has transformed into a continent-wide movement, rejecting economic control and political dependency. The unrest has not stopped at Africa's borders. In Pakistan and Sri Lanka, countries heavily indebted to China, demonstrations demanding financial transparency are breaking out, echoing the same frustration. The phrase shared development, once used to symbolize mutual progress, has now been replaced by a bitter alternative: shared collapse. As these movements expand, Beijing faces an unprecedented dilemma. It can attempt to rebuild trust through genuine reform, or it can tighten control through censorship and financial pressure. But either path signals the end of an era in which economic power guaranteed influence. Africa's awakening has become a symbol of resistance against exploitation disguised as progress. Across the continent, people are rediscovering their voice after decades of silence. In Nairobi, students speak of equality instead of dependency. In Johannesburg, workers march not for aid, but for dignity. Even within China, quiet admissions have surfaced that the leadership underestimated Africa's will to stand up. Friendship cannot be built on debt, and loyalty cannot be purchased with money. What is unfolding is more than an economic crisis. It is a shift in the global order. The system of dependence, loans, and silent control that once defined China's outreach is beginning to fracture. As Beijing struggles with its domestic slowdown and mounting financial strain, its global influence is fading. The same factories that once powered China's rise now stand still, while images of unrest circulate freely despite censorship. The illusion of stability is breaking, and the world is watching closely. Africa's movement has become more than a local rebellion. It is a declaration of independence in a new century. From the ashes of broken promises, a new determination is emerging. We will no longer live someone else's dream, says one young activist, her words now repeated across the continent. In Twafi, that message has reached far beyond Africa's borders, reminding the world that true partnership is built not on control, but on respect. The grand dream that once carried China's Belt and Road Initiative across Africa has now begun to fade into ashes. What Beijing envisioned as a century-defining project of influence and prosperity has unraveled under the weight of mistrust, resentment, and greed. Roads, ports, and railways once built to symbolize friendship now stand as reminders of exploitation. For years, China came not to nurture Africa's growth, but to extract its lifeblood, oil, minerals, and rare earths, leaving behind debt, broken promises, and a legacy of imbalance. The illusion of mutual benefit has vanished, and the Belt and Road has turned into a cautionary tale of ambition without empathy. The Chinese dream in Africa, once celebrated as the dawn of a new partnership, has dimmed into silence. What could have been a model of shared progress became a symbol of domination masked as development. While Beijing counted profits, Africans counted their losses. Poisoned rivers, empty mines, and promises that led nowhere. In the end, China's quest for power without understanding has only pushed Africa to reclaim its voice. The age of extraction is over, and the continent now seeks growth on its own terms. The dragon came to build an empire, but instead, it awakened a generation that refuses to be conquered. Thank you for watching China Truths. See you in the next episode.
Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. We will keep reporting on the COVID surge in China, so don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell to get the latest videos. And thank you for tuning in.